Yes, LEGO Ben 10 was indeed a thing. In early 2010, when Bionicle was on the way out, Ben 10 came in and made a very brief small debut. It's a more obscure but still kind of awesome LEGO theme, so today, let's talk about why these sets are so cool, and let's also discuss how you could use some of the pieces in these sets in your own MOCs. Because honestly, the pieces are pretty phenomenal. Let's go. Most of these figures in this whole Ben 10 wave have the exact same frame with a different head and some other kind of unique design or exciting piece. So for example, if we start off with Swampfire, we get a nice introduction to some of the unique limb elements that come in the set. Now some of these have actually appeared in some other Hero Factory sets as well, and so it's nice to see that these actually blend very nicely with the textures and designs of your typical Hero Factory pieces. Swampfire also comes with some other really unique elements, these strange kind of barb pieces that come in a couple different colours. I love these. They fit very nicely into your typical Hero Factory shell, and they're just this really unique, awesome shape. It's a shame that they're like $1 to $2 each on Bricklink, so it would be a little bit too expensive to buy them in bulk, but I think these would look great for some sort of like leafy plant or just nice little highlights on the different MOCs that you might have. Now as for Swampfire himself, he's like decently accurate to the source material. But I don't know, most of these guys, they're kind of similar to what it actually looks like, but they just aren't that kind of perfect match, don't look exactly like they appear on the show. But I guess it's still enough that it passes. So if we want to use some of his pieces in a MOC, let's take a look at a MOC by Dylan Meaves, and we can see that he's successfully used a lot of these elements to create a kind of cute little dude. I really like how he's used the feet elements to form this very unique mouth design. I don't know, I think that's particularly clever. But it's also nice to see these pieces in action and see how easy it is to build with them. I especially love how he's used the torso element on the head and kind of incorporated some horns onto the natural holes in that piece. It's clever. So how about now we take a look at Chromastone, and we can maybe take a closer look at that torso piece as well. I feel like this torso piece is fairly similar to early Hero Factory torso pieces. The shaping on the piece is fantastic. You could easily use it as like torso armor on a MOC, or maybe you could even incorporate it into like a larger thigh design or anything on a MOC. But still, there's a big old Ben 10 logo on the front in the same way that there was a big old Hero Factory logo on the torso before. Now thankfully it's a little bit smaller on the Ben 10 torso, so you kind of can just ignore it if you want to, but it's still on there. Regardless though, this torso comes in a lot of different colours, and there's some beautiful kind of sleek angles and nice textures to it, so I feel like it's still pretty versatile for mocking purposes, and for that, I think it's pretty good. Much like Swampfire, Chromastone has some of these unique barb elements. This time it's in magenta, and they are a slightly different shape to the ones before. Now these of course mimic the sort of stone accents that we can see on the source material. I adore these barb pieces. It would be great to have a really nice supply of them, and thankfully you get a nice supply of them in this set. Again, they're sadly $1 to $2 each on Bricklink, so it'll cost you if you want a good amount of them. But regardless, they're awesome and great for adding little slight details onto your Hero Factory MOCs or whatever it is that you want to do. It's a lovely little small addition. So let's take a look at a MOC by Mitch Henry that uses some Chromastone pieces in some pretty clever ways. We can see Chromastone's head piece being used here, and I think it's being used very nicely on this MOC. All of the Ben 10 headpieces are very unique, kind of a little bit goofy, but still kind of fun. So it's nice to see it paired with some other dark blue pieces, and it's nice that it gives this samurai MOC a very distinct and brilliant look, and it's something you couldn't really accomplish with your typical Bionicle masks, but you can with pieces like this. We can also see one of the foot pieces here being used, and I think it complements the MOC very nicely. So let's quickly take a look at Spider Monkey now, and then maybe we can also take a better look at these feet pieces too. It's nice to see some feet pieces on sets that are a bit more kind of slim and small. Often Bionicle style feet pieces can be quite large in size. So I appreciate seeing a noticeable difference that can kind of work well for your different types of MOCs, no matter the size of them. Spider Monkey might actually be my favourite of the lot of all these Ben 10 sets. He's just a really fun design, and it's really nice to see a four-armed character design being achieved with this Ben 10 torso piece. Speaking of which, here is the torso piece, and I adore it. The amount of connection points that are on this are great. You've got the neck, the legs, 2 areas for the arms, but I guess this bottom area could even be armor detail if you're using this on a MOC. Additionally, you've got a whole bunch of bar connections on the back, and also various points for axle holes on the front. You can just do so much with this torso. There's so many connection points on it, and that is so helpful for mocking. So once again, this is a brilliant piece, and even better to have when you're building your own stuff. Just lots of room to play with, you know? On the subject of MOCs, let's take a look at a MOC by Radar, and this uses the Spider Monkey headpiece in conjunction with a Galador torso piece from the set Nepal. What a brilliant combination of these pieces. It's insane that the fur textures perfectly complement each other, and yet these are from completely different themes and completely different years. It's like these two pieces were made for each other. Now, additionally, Mitch Henry actually built a MOC that uses this same kind of combination of pieces, so I don't know, it's nice to see how Ben 10 pieces are inspiring multiple builders, and this specific technique as well is much loved by a couple different builders here, so great to see two different versions of this same MOC that both use pieces from Spider Monkey. Now on to Jet Ray. Sadly, when I bought Jet Ray, he was missing a hand, so my apologies, he won't have one in this video. Sorry, Jet Ray. Still, he's a really cool set. And I think the most interesting piece on him is this large wing element. It's this kind of flexible plastic, and it has some axle connections on it as well that help you link it to the Ben 10 torso. I don't know, it's cool and really unique. Seeing kind of like flexible plastic like this that has axle connections is just kind of unheard of in Constraction sets, so pretty rare and pretty cool in that regard. So let's take a look at a MOC that uses this specific piece in its design, and it's a MOC by Dylan Mees. So we can see that he's sort of incorporated into the MOC here, and it's sort of maybe kind of like some sort of tunic or maybe some sort of snazzy looking armor. It's brilliant. It's such a simple design, but it kind of just perfectly elevates this MOC and makes it all that more unique. And it's nice to see it partnered with that yellow Howl mask as well. The two just kind of work nicely together. I don't know, I think this is just a great way to use some of those Ben 10 pieces in your own MOCs. Let's quickly touch upon Big Chill, and I quite like this one. Very unique face design that I think has a lot of usage outside of sort of your Ben 10 focused characters, because, I don't know, it's almost got a bit more of a sort of skull-like shape to it, and it looks a bit more sort of sinister and evil, so it's a pretty cool design. These unique wing pieces are very nice as well. They're not as flexible as the previous wings that we were looking at, but they're still pretty cool, and I think you could get some nice usages out of them as well. This set also has some interesting sort of like armor plate kind of pieces here, and you know, they attach normally to your typical sort of Hero Factory shell armor pieces here, and they're very cool. Couldn't find too many MOCs that use these specific wing pieces, but I could find some MOCs that use some of the other parts inside Big Chill, but let's maybe save that MOC for the very end of the episode, because it's a pretty cool one and it's a nice way to finish off the episode. So finally we have Humungousaur. Now this one is a lot skinnier than the source material, so probably not the best when you compare it, but he's still pretty cool and has some very interesting pieces. He has this interesting kind of hand-arm piece here, and it's a unique piece, and I think you can use it in some cool ways, but seeing it on the set itself, it's kind of not so good. You can kind of only really move it side to side, and you can't really move it in ways that you would expect it to, which is a little bit disappointing, especially because when you compare the articulation to some of the other sets, you've got pretty decent articulation. Still, we can use this piece for other means. So, for example, here's a MOC by Joxon that uses this piece, and it forms this brilliant sort of snout design for an alligator-like creature. Now, I think this is a genius part use. It just perfectly fits exactly that, and it's funny because it kind of does give a lot of personality and character to this fantastic MOC. So, really nice to see this piece in action. I think it looks much better here than it did on the set. So going back to Humungousaur, he has another flexible element that goes around his neck. Now this is certainly different, but I still think it's cool. It's an interesting way of giving him some shoulder armor and kind of covering up the neck. But if you take this piece off and you kind of flip up the sides, you can make it look kind of like a cowboy hat. So here's a MOC by Matt Goldberg that uses this design and makes it look really awesome. I think it's very clever to use the Hero Factory logo piece here as a sort of sheriff's badge, and then also combine it with some cloth and some guns, and it really helps sell that cowboy vibe. But of course, when you partner with the cowboy hat, it makes sense that it's going to do that. So yeah, it's amazing how that one piece really just brings this whole MOC together, and even cooler that it's such an obscure piece from this set, and if you use it in a specific way, then man, it's an even more impressive piece to have. Such a great way to use this obscure LEGO piece. I feel like that's actually a really great way to sum up all of these Ben 10 LEGO sets. Weird, obscure, but man, these pieces are useful, and when you use them on your MOCs, you get some brilliant results. But before I leave you, here's that last MOC I mentioned before. It's by Velociraptor, and it's Accelerate, another Ben 10 character. So yeah, Accelerate didn't get an official LEGO set, but still really cool to see Ben 10 characters being built by different AFOLs in the community, and especially cool to see Accelerate built, because he was always one of my favorites, and I don't know, he's perfectly captured him here in this MOC. I love that he's used some of these leg pieces here that we saw on Big Chill and some of the other sets, just to kind of continue that vibe that the original sets had on this MOC. Just very fitting and very appropriate as well. I love too that he's used one of those lime claw pieces to form his sort of piercing eyes. It's sort of surprisingly simple but very accurate. And I love too how he's used a lot of different Azure Hero Factory limb element pieces, because that's sort of the exact color that he looks on the show. So definitely smart to do that. And then overall, he's kind of perfectly translated the agile kind of shape and frame of this character. It's just really cool to see. Speaking of things being cool to see, I would have liked seeing Accelerate as an official LEGO set. I don't know if it would have looked much like this, but still, I'm sure some of the colors and pieces would have been really, really exciting to see. I mean, heck, it would have been cool to have seen characters like Upgrade or Cannonbolt from Ben 10. I mean, there were just so many characters on the show, and I think so many of them would have translated beautifully into LEGO form. So it's a shame that this theme got discontinued so quickly. I'm sure there would have been heaps of different creative possibilities for this. But hey, at least we got some of these sets, at least some of them exist. That's good. So that's it for this LEGO Ben 10 focused video. Maybe you could use some of these pieces in your own MOCs. Happy building, and bye for now.